There are some games that are just so beloved that even if you haven't played them, you know they're in the upper echelon of gaming. Whether you're here because you're curious or because you want to be given more reasons to play, I'm glad that you are. I'm Sam the Ashen, and this is Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is a whole 8 years old at this point, which is pretty crazy to me. I remember playing it for maybe an hour years ago because I heard it was a Souls-like, but I really didn't like it. The lack of a dodge or dash in combat made it feel pretty boring and unfair. Of course, nowadays I realize the error in my ways because that was really only the beginning and I didn't truly give it a chance. At its heart, Hollow Knight is an action platformer. So for pretty much the whole game, you're going to be exploring, platforming, and fighting. And really, this is the core of why the game is so great. The combat starts off really simple. You have one attack button, and it's really more about moving out of the way of enemy attacks and then waiting for your chance to strike. And while this is fine, the game continuously opens up more with new abilities, charms, and weapon arts. There's also healing and spells that draw from the same resource, soul, which you get from hitting enemies. So if you're doing really well in a fight, you're rewarded by being able to use powerful spells, and if not, you kind of have to save it so you can heal. Healing takes a few seconds, so you really have to time it well and find an opening for it. Even platforming ties into the combat, whether it's jumping over an enemy or hanging onto the walls or dashing under an attack. You can always use your environment and your skills to your advantage. Some enemies have mostly horizontal attacks, so you can bounce on top of them with your nail to get in a lot of damage. There's also something called charms that are basically accessories for your character. You can equip them to give a bunch of different bonuses. There's around 40 different ones, so there's really a lot of mixing and matching you can do to strengthen your own playstyle. If you want to focus on melee, there's charms that extend your nail's range. There's one that lets you charge weapon arts faster. If you want to focus on spells, there's charms that make them more powerful, one that makes them use less soul, and then there's all-around charms that give you more health, more strength, or that let you collect more soul from hitting enemies. You can even kind of make a summoner build with charms that give you companions to fight with you. They're not really that strong on their own, but together and with you, they're a nice addition. For me, the combat was really fun throughout the whole game, but it really felt like it came together the more that I progressed through the game and unlocked abilities and charms. I think the combat overall is pretty difficult, but I wouldn't say it's unfair. There's people that do hitless runs all the time for pretty much every boss, so you can get by with enough persistence. It might not be that challenging for some people. I've never really been great at 2D platformers. Speaking of platforming, something I felt right away was how smooth and precise the movement felt. Even jumping feels really precise. You can control the height of your jump pretty easily. At first, it's just a matter of gauging your jumps and your falls, but it does get more complex when you unlock things like the double jump and the dash and the wall climb. There's a mechanic referred to as nail bouncing, which I was horrible at for a long time, but after enough practice, it felt really good to get across a little section by timing my downward attacks to bounce along the platform. A lot of the areas are gated by needing a specific skill to get to them, like a ledge that's too high to get to without a double jump, or a gap that's too far without a dash. This leads me to my really one and only criticism of the game, which, just for fair warning, is definitely subjective as far as it being a downside. The game has quite a bit of backtracking and going through areas that you've already been to get to places that you couldn't reach before. I don't always dislike backtracking in games, and the game does have a map to help with exploration, but there are so many areas that you have to backtrack for, and it's really hard to remember where they're all at. There are map markers, but a lot of things on the map get marked for you once you buy the right pin, but these unreachable locations do not get marked. There are manual map markers, and I probably would have saved myself a lot of Google searches if I would have used these from the start. It doesn't make the game bad. It's definitely not a deal breaker. It's probably not even going to be a downside for a lot of people. It just felt really time consuming, but it's not going to be that way for everybody, especially if you don't mind backtracking or if you use the map markers from the beginning. Even with the backtracking, the exploration is a ton of fun. The environments are really unique, and I personally really like the art style, so they were all really visually appealing. The backgrounds match the areas really well. The game does a great job at using lighting and particles and small details to really hone in on the atmosphere, which kind of gives the vibe of a fallen kingdom that is in near shambles, but still has a ton of beauty to discover. The world is littered with bugs wandering around, whether they lost their purpose or everything but. Eventually, you'll get access to something called the Dream Nail, which lets you access some special boss fights, and it gives you insight into some of the deeper lore. It can even be used on enemies to get a kind of glimpse of what they're thinking, The big city guards that patrol the streets only focus on their duty to protect the city. The nobles that wander around don't like you because you smell, and even with them being mostly husk, they keep their sense of righteousness and are really snobby towards any outsiders. For most corpses you come across, you can use the dream nail to get a glimpse at their last thoughts, and a lot of them are not crucial to the story, but they do a great job of adding some life and character to the environments around you, and end up painting a picture by piecing together bits of information that you find throughout the levels. Pretty much all the inhabitants of the game, friendly or hostile, are bugs. And you might think, well, how many different bugs can there be and how functionally different are they? Hollow Knight proves that there are plenty of different bugs because the enemy variety is pretty awesome. Now, there are a lot of the standard crawl around on the platform bugs that you just swing at, but even at the beginning of the game, there's different types of bugs that require different approaches. There's bugs that charge at you that you have to hit at the right time or jump over them, and right behind that, there's a jumping bug, so you have to take a different approach and wait for it to land, because if you jump with it, you're going to get hit. From the massive city guards that hit extra hard to the terrifying giant spider bugs of the deep nest to the quick and nimble mantis bugs, there is a ton of variety for enemies. There's also a lot of bosses in this game. The consensus that I found online seems to be right around 46 bosses. I'm not sure if this includes variations. I think it does, but a lot of the variations, even if they look similar, function a lot differently. Like the false knight boss that you fight at the beginning of the game, and then the failed champion boss that you fight after hitting the false knight with the dream nail. They look the same, but the fight is a lot different with new mechanics and new hazards. Not every fight is as great and spectacular as something like Nightmare Grim, but the overall boss quality is really exceptional. The boss designs feel really inspired and original. The movesets are pretty varied, but not too hard to memorize. The feeling I got from the bosses, and really throughout the whole game, was the old Souls adage, tough but fair. The game is really filled to the brim with charm. From our own little Hollow Knight to our rival of sorts, Silk, to the grandpa of the town that we meet at the beginning of the game, to the understimulated shopkeeper, to the Seaward adjacent cloth, to the Solaire-esque Quirrell, to the mighty Zote. Hollow Knight is filled with charming characters. The game isn't loaded with dialogue, but it's not lacking it either. A lot of times I have trouble wanting to skip through dialogue to keep on playing, but Hollow Knight, most of the time, the information felt special enough that I wanted to hear it, whether it was to gain insight into the world, or hear about an interesting location, or whatever it was. I don't think I ever skipped through the dialogue when hearing it for the first time, which I think is a testament to well-written characters. Besides gear and abilities, there's a few more forms of progression. You have your mask, which is your health, and you have your soul vessel, which is your resource for healing and spells, and you have your nail, your weapon. And progressing throughout the game, you collect mask fragments to get permanent upgrades to your health, vessel fragments so you can hold more soul, and pale ore to upgrade your nail to hit harder. Some of these end up being pretty hard to find. For me, the fragments for your health and your soul ended up being something that I had to Google the location of for the last couple ones in the end. This is definitely on me, but from pretty early on, I did my best to explore every nook and cranny. But in my defense, there is loads and loads of breakable and fake walls in the game. Pretty early, it got to the point that I was hitting every single wall that I could just in case it was breakable. A lot of times, there's little cracks in the walls that give you a hint that they are breakable, which I really appreciate. But there's some other times where it feels like it isn't easily noticeable, and I would have never found it had I not been randomly swinging my nail around. This is not a complaint, just a note. And really it's a compliment because of just how many secrets and hidden locations there are to find and explore in the game. This is a bit of a tricky one, as I have only played the Voidheart version of Hollow Knight, which I believe is just the standard version. I never played the game before all the DLC updates, so keep in mind I'm talking about how the game is now, not how it was when it was released. Through the year of the release of the game and the year after, a lot was added to the game. Altogether, there's 4 DLC that was added, and 3 of them are pretty substantial, especially the Dream DLC and the Godmaster DLC. I'm not sure how many hours each one adds. I know that the Dream DLC DLC is experienced all throughout the game between bosses and added lore. The Godmaster DLC is kind of a in-game boss rush. It has unique bosses, it also has upgraded versions of bosses, it has challenge runs. If you like boss fights, it's going to be a really good time. It's totally optional. I'm pretty sure it is especially for the completionist people and also people who just want to fight more bosses or want a really big challenge. Either way, it's a lot of content. It's also worth noting that all of this DLC was free and comes with the game. Hollow Knight is $15 if it's not on sale. It's on PlayStation Plus for free if you already have that, but regardless, it's really cheap and you get a ton of content for the price, and on top of that, it's really high quality content. It's really rare that you see a game that is just so filled with love and charm and quality, and also got to see some acclaim that it deserved. It's in a lot of people's top 10 games of all time, and it's for a good reason. If you haven't played this game and you like 2D platformers, or even if you like Souls-likes, I think it's absolutely worth giving it a shot. If you're new to it, try and give it a chance. If you're not feeling it at first, it does start off a little slow, but it gets better and better every minute that you play. If you have already played it, but it's been more than a year or two, I would say play it again. This is one of those games that after a while, it's worth another playthrough, even if you've already 100% completed it. It's an incredible game, and I can't recommend it enough, even in 2025. Try to play it before Silksong comes out, because that's coming soon, right? I really appreciate you watching the video. I just recently got to 1,000 subscribers, which is really awesome. Now if I can just get to that next benchmark, I think the closest one is 10 million. But seriously, I really appreciate each and every one of you. 1,000 people is a lot. If you enjoyed the video, leaving a like helps me out a lot. If you have any thoughts, I would love to hear from you in the comments. If you want to see more from me, subscribe. I post once every other week on Sunday, so I'll never clog up your feed. I hope you have a good one. Peace out.